Crazy.
That's the soundbite which you are going to cut up and put everywhere.
Yeah.
Your
Jen, when you're doing this,
is not your database, and that's what people I think right now are getting confused with.
Welcome to the latest episode of Over a Pint. We're trying a new venue because every venue I pick seems to have different issues and we're still waiting for that perfect spot. So this week I have two different guests and there's a reason for that. They do have things together, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then we're going to get the beer going. So let's start with
Gear.
After you. Gear. There we go.
Normally you introduce.
I know.
We're mixing it up. I like it already. I'm Gary McGowan, and that's who I am, and we'll get into everything else. Who are you?
I'm Colin Campbell, and Gary McGowan is my business partner. You would have seen us on podcasts together, in the office together, but that's who we are.
That's who we are.
And if you haven't seen them, let's talk to them about their marketing plan.
Do you know a guy?
I might, one or two. All right,
Excellent.
Let's do this.
Excellent.
Whoa.
Shook up a little.
Apparently.
Oh, baby.
Ooh.
Could be
Tastes
worse.
better.
Off to a flying start.
Good thing this is someone else's venue. Oops. Should have brought paper towels. See, I'm just not thinking about all.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I'm going to do a double pour.
It's all good. So this is a running joke from the early episodes because there's like 10 episodes in a row that we had to talk about all the shitty pours that happened. And it was, if you actually look at, there's beer sommeliers who are like, well, if you don't do that, then it happens in your stomach.
Yes.
So this is actually the preferred so that doesn't happen in your stomach. And we've now mentioned this at least 20 times on the show. But because shitty pours always happen.
Interesting.
But now I'm like, don't worry about it. It's proper. And that's where we're
So how do you prevent that? I'm sure this was shaken up because it's rare that will happen with Guinness.
Yeah.
And now this is
So,
going to take a while to sit.
If you tip it enough and pour it, but I think it's because I had my backpack coming up the stairs and it shook them enough that it was inevitable. But yeah, you just do the side.
It doesn't take away from the taste. So
yeah. They're good. And it makes your stomach feel better is what we're getting at. So how long have you guys been business partners?
That is a wonderful question.
It's a loaded question. Actually.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to how we met. I don't remember that fond afternoon.
Let's talk about how we met. I don't remember.
Neither do
Let's talk about it.
Colin and I have known of each other for probably 15 years.
15 plus years.
And then we didn't actually meet face to face really until about 10 or 11 years ago when we both became members of the same brokerage here in Newmarket, Keller Williams. And then really from that day forward, it didn't take us long to realize that we were like-minded and became business partners. Yeah,
absolutely.
Is that right?
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it. Because we were a part of an investment network where you know of that guy, but you haven't met the guy. And we've heard of each other. We were in the circle of similar companies, and everybody's like, "You need to meet Colin. You need to meet Gary." So when we started working together at Keller Williams, and I think I started a couple months after Gary, you're like, "Oh, you're the Gary McGowan. You're the guy. You're the Colin Campbell." Yeah. So, and it's funny because like-minded people attract each other, and like-spirited people as well attract each other. So Gary and I have a great work relationship, a great friendship, and when you're around someone who values the same thing, you almost think on the same level, and it's also a good person to bounce ideas off of. Yeah. So the relationship I have with him is invaluable. So I appreciate that, buddy.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Hey,
look at me.
Look at me being awesome.
Yeah, and then there's Andrew.
Yeah. I am also here.
Yeah, that's right.
We're all in the same town, purely coincidental. And I booked this space not realizing it's literally across the plaza from their office.
When you
I didn't realize that till after. I sent the address, like, here it is, guys.
When you sent us, I was like, why are we hosting it at our office?
Yeah.
But okay.
What does he know that we don't know?
Yeah. And you guys didn't even know this was here.
So, no, this is a cool facility. Yeah. I like it. So we'll do a shameless plug. Studio 3 in Newmarket if you want a place to film, shoot, all that fun stuff. Studio 3 in Newmarket. Don't kick us out for not telling you about the alcohol.
as he takes a sip.
Part of the fun.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So you guys own the brokerage now, and you guys, I assume, were agents before that.
Yeah.
Now, were you partners as agents before you owned the brokerage at all, or this was the first time you guys partnered up?
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, okay, well, to provide some clarity to that, what really brought us together from a business partnership perspective is, of course, Colin mentioned like-minded people, and then when I'd go on vacation, Colin would take over my business and the like. And then we started our podcast about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And we went from good friends, good business partners, and when you start doing projects together, that changes.
Mm-hmm.
Shameless plug your podcast.
Yeah, the Not So Black and White Real Estate Podcast. You can figure out why that name is so funny and relevant and irrelevant. Is that a word?
Because he's got a really dark humor, and he's about as vanilla as you get.
I love it. Oh my goodness. I'm going with that.
Yeah, actually.
I'm going with that.
Let's talk about that for a second, right? So, just like your podcast and different content that you create, your imagination starts to come out, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, can we try this? Can we try this? And Colin and I knew we wanted kind of that yin and yang, but we knew we weren't going to call it that, right? Opposites and everything, and Colin or me or somebody came up with the Black and White Real Estate Podcast, and I mentioned it to Michelle, my wife, and she just looks at me like kind of over her glasses. You guys are not so black and white.
That's it. And the moment Gary called and he said, "Hey, this is the name," I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. We're going with it."
Yeah,
It works.
yeah.
But it's funny how we launched that podcast, and the goal here is not to talk about our podcast, but it's to talk about jumping into action. Gary called in January of 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, January 2019. And at that point, I just completed David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, came out December 2018. I think it was the 18th of December or something at that point. Just finished reading that book. And it just talks about taking action. So Gary called, he's like, "Yeah, we should do this. I'm not sure how we'll do it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Let's get to the office, get the location." And the day we were supposed to have like a trial run, and we were like, "Screw this, let's just hit record." And that was the first podcast, and we haven't looked back since. So just like how you are just having conversations, it's the same with our podcast.
Yeah, it's a very similar start to mine. And it's something I go back to beginning of my career, just start doing it, figure the rest of it out later. Like, I thought of the idea, and I was originally going to do it over craft beers. So it was going to be like the craft of marketing, but then there's already a podcast called The Craft of Marketing. And I was trying to model it after Canes and Cars Getting Coffee and Hot Ones. And I wanted, instead of hot wings to get people's guard down, I went with alcohol for obvious reasons. And then it also gets way more people on the show because they're excited to drink at work. And you can write it off. It's great. But I was like, it was like a Tuesday. Finally, like, over a pint, that's what I'm going to call it. The next Friday, I was in Tim Hudak's office filming the first episode. And there's like a camera that had been like gathering dust in my basement that shut off 20 minutes into the episode. And I luckily had brought my brother with me, and he finished the episode on his phone. Whoa. So you notice at one point, it just like, there's like a blip. And there's everything changes, the sounds words.
The angles.
Everything, it's just all different.
We've all been there. Yeah.
And because I never had done anything like that before. Like, it was my first attempt. Like, before that, I'd just done like either webcam or like an iPad.
Sure.
I'd never tried to like film a show. And then like, we were doing the thing where like you're sitting here trying to like do like a triangle thing. And over time, I got this one where we're uncomfortably close together. But the finished product. It's
there
all about the fans.
The fans. Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's one of the top YouTubers out there from a marketing perspective. This is right in your wheelhouse, Sean Cannell from Think Media. Sometimes you just got to shoot, like just hit the record button, right?
You figure it out later.
Exactly.
So even back to like real estate sales, like when I was selling, I was in my office, so I didn't want to pay desk fees, so I just worked out of like the boardroom wherever I could, and so I was often just in the boardroom when other people were having meetings, and I'd just be at the other end. There's a really long one. And I remember there's 4 agents at the other end being like, "How do you guys get power sales? Because this person in our office has a power sale," and they looked after me, or like told me like, "While I'm away, can you look after it for me?" And they're like, "I don't know anything about power sales. Like, how do you do it? How do you even get one?" And they was like going on. And they probably spent a good half an hour trying to like talk this out. I just closed my laptop, got up, drove to the bank, So like, can I speak to the manager?
You have a list?
He's like, oh, so like in all of York region, we only had 4 last year. Like it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's starting to change a little bit, but like back then, they're almost unheard of. And he's like, but we are having Realtor Appreciation Day soon. Do you want to set up for a day in our lobby? And I was like, yes, I absolutely want to set up for your day in your lobby. And like they had cake with me and all this stuff.
Was that Scotiabank?
This is RBC.
Oh, because I did it in Scotiabank.
Yeah. And then as we were talking to them there, I started talking to their mortgage specialist, and he's like, hey, we should do like a first-time homebuyer seminar in the bank together. And I was like, absolutely, we should. And so then we started doing like regular seminars with the bank. And then another bank called being like, hey, I see you're doing that with them. Would you do that with us? And it just started leading into like me doing seminars and getting clients from them just because I got off my ass.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing special about it.
Yeah.
It's funny how the world conspires to help you achieve your goals the moment you take action.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times we're so scared to just jump. And we'll figure it out. We'll figure shit out as we go along. But
People are
just
so
jump.
scared of like what happens if someone like that rejection. And I remember it hit home one time with me. I was actually at my old broker. You guys know Steve DeBreezy?
Yeah.
So he was doing a cold calling class. And at this point I was like, I'll try anything. I just need business. So I go and like, oh, might as well take a class. I know he did well with cold calling. And the first thing that someone's like, oh, I'm so nervous about cold calling. And Steve just goes like, what's the worst that could happen? No, seriously, like answer, like what's the worst that could happen? And I'll be like, they tell you to go fuck yourself when you hang up. And he's like, you. I like you. It's just the wrong time to speak up because when there's a room of 40 people now and so he wanted someone to practice a live cold call, he's like, you.
Yeah.
So I had to put my phone on speaker, and I was an agent for not that long at this point. And I had to put my phone on speaker in a room of 40 agents and do a live FISBO cold call.
Oh, beauty.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Did not get the listing. I did make the woman laugh, and people thought I would get it. But that was a really like, because I was not like, I was the kid in school who like, I'd take a 0 if it was present in front of the class. Like I did not want to go in front of anything. I was just like, yeah, I'll take the 0, we're good.
Yeah.
Just see I'll make it up on the quiz.
Funny.
So back to how you guys started the brokerage. Or not started the brokerage because you bought it.
Yeah.
How did that happen from you guys being agents who just kind of covered for each other to make that like, hey, we should buy this together?
Yeah, well, and again, to provide clarity on that transition for me, and you'll see the synergy there with Colin in a moment. 4-ish years ago, the owner of the brokerage at that time was looking for somebody to take over from a day-to-day operations management level, and as he was kind of segueing out of really operating, doing daily operations, so I took on the responsibility of general manager of all our locations. And so that provided me, which as soon as you do that, tremendous amount of other experience is now on your lap, right? You're managing, not only you're managing people, but you're managing people's lives and of course a large business of many transactions every year. And during that time, Colin was working with the owner at that time to take over the actual ownership of the brokerage, which he's done 2 years ago. Yeah. And he can share that story. And so really what's happened is Colin is the 100% owner of our brokerage.
Yep.
Of course, I stayed on to support and provide some expertise and pretend I have wisdom to provide and that sort of thing.
But that's how you get to have it. Right? Just start.
Yeah, and you should probably share that journey a little bit, because it's not just, hey, I gotta go buy a real estate brokers tomorrow and that's what happens.
Yeah.
Like it's you'll explain it, and from the outside, from my perspective looking in, for instance, when he got his license, when you got your license, it became a 10-year journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because the moment I got my real estate license, before I got into real estate, district manager, Radio Shack, Best Buy, all the retail sales, truly enjoyed that, but I knew real estate is something that I needed to do. It was my calling.
Yeah.
I knew I had to do it.
Calling or you're calling?
Both.
Yes.
As I said it, I was like, Andrew's gonna mention something. So I'm looking at it and always wanted to get into real estate, but was fearful to make that jump.
No.
I remember going home and telling my wife, I'm tired of working at, this was the last place I worked was where, Winners. I said, that's it, I'm just done, I've had enough. And she's like, then babe, let's help you write your resignation, and you handed it.
No.
Wrote my resignation that night with my wife, she's a teacher, so she helped, edit it and all that jazz. Drove around with it in my car for 9 months. That's right. Fear. I knew exactly how much money was coming in, when it would be in. I knew how things were.
There wasn't enough pain at the winner's job yet.
No.
Yeah.
I saw that, someone was talking about that recently. It's like the most dangerous position is where there's just not, you don't like it, but there's not enough pain to force action.
That is exactly it, and that's where I was, and one day it got to the point where I was like, I don't care what I do, I'm out. So I left, and the next day I started studying for my real estate license. I would never advise anyone to do that. At least know which path you're going.
Work through the course. Then jump in.
Then jump in.
Then you go all in, but work through that.
Absolutely. So what I did, next day, I called up and I started studying for my real estate license. I studied like I was studying for the bar. I didn't know anyone that took it recently, and I was studying on average 8 to 9 hours a day. It was ridiculous. Didn't know that a 99 and a 76 doesn't really make a difference. All you need is a 76 to pass.
75?
75 to pass, yeah. So one more, right?
Yeah.
Overachiever.
So one
here.
of my tests, so you should see my scores if you go back and look. You can tell which one was the worst. So it's course 2, because it's like the meets and bounds, and it's a story of the guy like going through the forest with his chains.
That's
and
ridiculous.
you're like, I don't get. And my wife came home like 4 days in a row to me asleep on the couch with a textbook on top of me. Got a 76 on that test.
Nailed it.
Every other one was between 98 and 100. And then it was just this one. Oh. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
And nobody asked me about meets and bounds
Ever.
again.
Ever.
Like, not once. I think I did it one time as like an anecdote to my staff, and I was like, hey, I used something I learned from that course.
So segue into that while the opportunity is there. My grandfather from England was a bricklayer, and we're talking back in like in the 50s and 40s and 50s, and she still has one of those roll-up tape measures that he owned with meets and bounds on it, chains and links. Like it's incredible.
We need to bring one in so we measured the front of our office.
Yeah.
He put me like, back in my day.
That's right. Yeah.
This is how we measured lot lines.
That's it. Not one foot in front of the other.
The new guy comes in and be like, how long have you been around?
Exactly.
It's been a while.
Exactly.
I can at least say there was typewriters and fax machines in my office when I started. That was more because my office was outdated at the time, more than like I've been around that long. But
I know that office. Yeah.
like they picked it up over time. But yeah, when I first got there, I remember I saw the typewriter in the corner, and I was like, it's weird they haven't thrown that out yet. I was like, they probably just, they didn't need the space.
Nostalgic.
Every day they used it.
Somebody used it.
Yeah.
Click, click.
It was like one of those, like, it wasn't even like the cool ones where it's like, psh, whoosh. It was like one of those like 80s that like, it's trying to be like an oversized keyboard. So like it was terrible. But like they could do it
Turquoise
like,
blue
leather
or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like every like label for something, they typed it up on that, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then I think that's actually how I got started in training, is because I did an iPad open house registration, and then can you show everyone else?
Oh,
And
so
then just
you would
started
have
being
been
the
like
training.
the guru in the office.
Yeah. Oh, so that's actually how I made money, because it took me 6 months to get my first sale, and I did like 10 leases to like help pay the bills, then took a job at Mastermind Toys. But
In Aurora?
yeah, so I lost the listing because of that, because when I did a listing presentation the next day, they ran into me helping them find toys.
That is awesome.
That toy you got them was next level.
Yeah, that was
So they literally canceled the listing.
Their
No,
child's
so I
now
didn't
like
have the listing yet. It was in that consideration phase.
Yeah.
Oh,
then
and
I
you
never
weren't considered.
No,
Their
that-
child's a
I
scientist.
just like, it was one of those ones where like I turned around and we just ended up face to face in the aisle, and I was like, huh, funny. See, I was like,
Oh, it's real estate slow in December. You know how it. It's a fun thing to do, not the.
And I like the toys.
Yeah, I love Lego, and I get a discount.
Nice.
Oh, that was a great one. Where was I going before that?
Oh yeah, I was telling my story.
Yeah, we're going back to Colin. Let's send it back.
That is interesting. It's funny when guys sit down and talk. Like there's no direction.
No
That's
path.
the fun part
Yeah.
of the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, got my real estate license, and the moment I got into real estate, my goal was, how do I own?
Yeah.
Ownership has always been a huge part of just my mentality. How do I own? And the owner of the brokerage who I purchased it from, a couple years in, I just reached out to him and asked him to be my mentor.
Yeah.
And he just started mentoring me through different things because experienced real estate agent, commercial, he's done a lot. Someone very knowledgeable in the industry. So he started mentoring me. And it just led to the right conversations and then the right opportunity.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that, actually, I think I was even being considered for a different brokerage. And he even said, why don't you just buy mine? What do you mean, buy
So
yours?
much easier.
Yeah.
It's for sale? No, it's not. However, I will consider selling it to you. I don't think I would have gotten to that place if I wasn't putting in the work.
Yeah.
I wasn't showing up in the office. I wasn't leading in the office. I wasn't coaching, teaching, mentoring. If I wasn't putting in that work, I don't think that opportunity would have been there.
Nice. I was in good hands.
Yeah.
That works out. Then you just kind of inherited Gary and are stuck with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You get
but,
rid of 'em.
Pretty much.
but that is the beauty of working with someone who you know at a deep level, and you can know how that person think. And Gary's a solid business partner for me.
Yeah, I can ask him to leave the room if you want to.
No. Like he's truly a solid business partner.
Taking my drink.
Yeah. Where, I might be struggling with a decision, and then, when you're in it, you can't see.
Yeah.
And just that person who understands you and knows your core values and belief and just always brings it back to it and sheds a lot of clarity on things. And I was like, dude, I'm so grateful that you're in my world, right?
Yeah.
So, and that has just flourished our relationship. And now we're like, okay, how do we just continue to build more together? Because I can go off and build something massive, so can Gary,
Yeah.
because he's extremely smart, knowledgeable. But the two of us coming together, and now we were to put our minds and heart and soul into one project. Think about how far we'll go, right? We might not get there as fast as we want, but how far we'll go. And that's the beauty about our relationship.
Yeah. What do you said?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Easy.
All right, you
Easy.
owe me 20 bucks for that.
So you guys, you just have to show up for like 8 years
That's
and really work hard, then you can own your own brokerage too.
Yeah. Well,
easy.
and the thing about that too, though, is how many people do we know that have been in the business 30-ish years and then becoming owners, or the owners that we know of have been in the business for that amount of time? It's rare that someone comes into the business with this success and now owns, one of the largest brokerages, definitely in this area.
How many agents do you guys have now?
Just under 250.
And is it Newmarket? Because they also have Aurora.
We have Newmarket, Aurora, Keswick.
Keswick.
We have
And an agent, we have what we call agent mega agent offices, where they'll have their own location
with
or
the teams
satellite
and-
office
Yeah,
with
yeah,
teams
yeah.
and so forth, right? So I think we have 11
10,
locations.
yeah. So we have Tobermory, Owen Sound,
Yeah.
Hanover.
Yeah.
You
Right.
guys still? Marion Carcody's still with you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
So she was at my office when I started.
That's right.
And she was one of the people who paid me for tech support.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she was one of my favorite people to learn from. Because I don't know if it's still like this. It wouldn't surprise me if it is. And the joke in the office was, she's a robin. The spring market's coming because she's come back from Arizona. That's the
She's
sign.
been back from Arizona.
Yeah. The work is starting again.
Yeah.
But she has one of my all-time favorite lines because she had $500 a year marketing budget. And I was like, what's that for? And she has the line item was basically, let them know I haven't died yet.
That is brilliant
Yeah.
marketing.
And that's it. It's just enough so people know she hasn't died.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she was awesome. And I love that both their kids are successful in the industry, but she won't let them work with her.
Yeah.
They can cover when she's on vacation.
Yeah.
She's like, I let them shadow me for a week, then they're on their own. And I was like, there's another Robin analogy of kicking them out of the nest there.
That's true.
It just works, but she's so much fun.
And she's someone who's obviously knowledgeable in the industry, someone and when she talks, you listen.
Yeah.
Like when
She knows her shit.
she knows what she's about, skilled negotiator. Yeah, she works in our office.
That's why I bought the first house I bought. So I bought a house and then moved downtown, then came back. I bought this house, didn't have a survey, and she goes, "Oh, you bought the house on Timber Trail?" She's like, "Hold on, come by my house this afternoon." I come by. She pulled a file out of her desk. She was the first listing agent in like the early '90s, and still had the box with the survey and original photographs on like the Polaroid from like And she's like, "Well, here's your survey."
That's incredible.
I was like, "You're a pro."
yes.
That was one of those moments where you're like, "Yeah, Marion, she brings it."
Yeah.
So I used to always any chance like when she was so gentle. Like I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll charge you like $50 to come and like set all this up." By the time I left, I'd have like 400, and she's like, "No, just you were really good. Just here's more." Or like one time I was going to New York that night with my wife, and I like popped over in the morning, and she goes, "Oh, I have American cash. Just take it." It was like $300. I was like, "I'll come back and do more for you."
You like clients like that?
Yeah, she's great. I loved her.
Yeah.
So yeah, if she ever needs anything, I'll be there. It's always good like that. I know we talked about. I forgot my next question. I had something in my head.
That's all right. We'll find things to talk about.
Yeah. It's always easy.
So here's what I want to know.
Sure.
Here's what I want to know. And we can have this conversation about where do you see marketing? I know it's all about us at this moment, but I'd like to have a little pint conversation around where do you see marketing going over the next 6 months with all the implementation, or what we think the implementation of say ChatGPT and AI and that sort of crazy stuff.
So I don't think in the next 6 months you're going to see much change in the outside of like people will be more effective at putting out content, because I think it's going to take agents that long to kind of adjust to this new like, I have ChatGPT, here's how I can use it. So I think like the floor will be raised in terms of like, yes, there'll still be people who put shitty listing descriptions out, but like it's such an easy way to get a better listing description.
Of course.
That it's just like, there's a quick fix. So like in 6 months, like you'll see way better listing descriptions, stuff like that. It's the 24 months, and I don't actually know the timeline for how Google's going to change. Because like, I still think theirs will be very good.
Microsoft as well.
They're not going away, but like.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Hire, just sell homes. And that was a word from our sponsor.
So Google, or search engine optimization. Like if your whole business is based around SEO right now, you got to start thinking like, what's going to happen? And that's the thing is like, it's hard to say, because if now it's like one answer is provided, now there's no others, it means you're either the first or none. But if you've started to, have you guys seen like the ChatGPT plugins, like some of the previews of that? So like now people might not even leave those chat tools, and I'll just give them one answer. How does that change SEO? Like, so there's a real danger there for people. I still think like PPC and that stuff will exist, but could you build an entire business around it 5 years from now? I can't 100%. Like, I think you can build it around content, but like I was actually talking with a big team out west who he's paying 5 cents a word for blog posts, and he's ranking really high, like quickly across PC, but that like kind of lower quality content that's generic, just designed to rank, like that's not going to go anywhere now. Like that's long term. Well, that now it's still working, but like a year from now, that's not going to really help them out. So you got to start adding your personality, adding your insights. I think you have to add the things that AI can't, which is like the personality to it. You got to have some fun with it. Like I remember like 2 of the blog posts that got me the most attention. One was 10 trick-or-treating tips from an expert door knocker, because I door knocked a lot, and it was like I themed it around this idea of like you're looking for that elusive like full-size candy bar. And so I had this whole like top 10 tests of like, don't give up, because that next house that you didn't knock on might be the one with that full-size candy bar. And the whole thing, and it did very, very well. Like got shared a lot, did great. Then the other one I did, which was inspired by Bill Simmons, who was at the time my favorite writer in sports, and it was because he loved like weaving pop culture into whatever he was writing. So, and it was season 1 of Game of Thrones. So I did 10 tips about buying a house from Tyrion Lannister. And I would take like a Tyrion quote from season 1 and then turn that into a real estate tip. So I'd I'd take the quote, find a way to spin it into real estate, and give a tip. And that one got shared a lot too. So it was like I added that extra piece, and I think that's what people have to start doing is like looking for those opportunities to bring those things in that you can't get anywhere else. Like I'm working with a client on community pages for their website right now, and I'm like, yeah, you can have ChatGPT write it, but now that's the same content anyone else can get and the same quality now. Like the only thing difference is how do you write the prompt?
Yeah. The way you ask the questions.
Yeah, and which can give you really good. But now, what if we did that, but then added in personal insights? Like, so when we're talking about community, have you write, here's what I love, or like add an anecdote of you selling a home that was interesting in that neighborhood. That can't be replicated by anyone.
Yeah.
Like, and I think this also, what I've gone on for years about is like, get their email and have a good email plan. Like weekly emails that go out, because you own that and that won't change. Like email's still the most resilient channel. I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon.
Are people still reading emails?
Yeah, if they don't suck. But most
The
suck.
people or the emails?
Both.
Okay, just checking.
Most emails suck. Like I don't need to send every year 7 ways to winterize your home. No one cares about that.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what drives me crazy?
Well, let's have it.
You know what
Where
really
do we
bugs
start?
me is we had a couple weeks ago, Spring Forward.
Yep.
Every agent is putting out turn your clock
That has
forward.
died down compared to 10 years ago, though. Like, it's not as
Like,
prevalent.
as agents, we shouldn't even be putting that information out.
No, like your phone just
Your
does it
phone
automatically.
does it automatically. Like,
Yeah. That's the shitty content that people aren't going to open.
Yeah.
But that's also the one where, like, if I was to send out that email, I would just make it the subject line and be like, don't open this email, don't forget about your clocks.
That's the email.
that's even better.
Yeah, like, just keep yourself top of mind like you're there.
And then you open up the email, and why did you open up this useless email?
Yeah,
I mean, see,
there's
that's
something
something.
out. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
but like, because there's an interesting thing of if you're regularly in their inbox, even if they're not reading it. Like, I actually had a client sign up recently. He's like, you know, I see your email every week in my inbox. I haven't opened one in like a year, but I keep seeing it, so I never forget about you.
Yeah. Well, that's the
So
whole.
as
and
long
I'm
as it's
sure-
not in spam, like there's still value there.
I'm sure you tell your clients this from a marketing perspective. From that pay-per-click or whatever, they may not click on it, but they're seeing that repetition. of it,
Yeah,
right.
No, that's valid. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard to measure brand value.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly important. It's like a show like this. You're not going to start a show like this as like if I went back to sales today, I would just do over a pint with local businesses. Exactly. But like I'm not going to get clients from it at the beginning.
Yeah.
And what I always tell people about shows is you don't do a show to get clients directly from like viewers. You do it to network with people.
Of course.
Right?
yeah.
Like it's a reason for us to get together. Not
Yeah.
that we've already done it without the show, but like get together and have a beer. But like I use the example, like I've had the CEO of Royal LePage, CEO of Remax on. They're not going to take a 2 or 3 hour meeting with me because I'm just like, hey, can I get 2 or 3 hours
Yeah,
of
no,
your
that's not
time?
happening.
But I'm like, I got beer, I got a show, I can get anywhere from 50 to 100,000 people watching an episode, and they'll give me 2 or 3 hours, and it's not really that different than me just shooting the shit with them.
There you go.
And it's led to some pretty good stuff. So, like, I use it as a networking tool. Like, if you look at like the first 15, 20 episodes of the show, at least half the guests became clients.
Interesting.
Because you end up just talking and getting to know them. Same with
Well, I think Gary Vee also said that, like, stop trying to create content and just document.
yeah.
And that's exactly what you're doing. You're just documenting our conversation here.
Yeah.
And people fall in love with that. Same thing with Joe Rogan.
Yeah. And I don't do a lot of editing, which has been a great feedback for people because I was spending so much time editing these things
Oh, we
because they're
learned that
long,
very
right?
quickly.
Like they're long episodes I do, and I'd get people like I would often leave in they're like shit I can cut that out, don't worry, we'll cut that out in post production, and I leave it in, and people tell me it's like their favorite part sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well I'm just gonna I'll cut. So basically I cut out RICO violations and anything that is just like super uninteresting. That's it.
So
Otherwise,
this
leave it.
podcast will be about 2 minutes long. Which is awesome.
Fuck this model, fuck this model, fuck that guy specifically.
That brand's terrible. Have you worked with this agent?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, that's how we roll too, and I think that's the beauty of it. From a pure time perspective, but B, it's I think more importantly, B is the fact that it's the genuine content, right? Like that's to me is the important stuff. And as we were saying about the AI stuff, as an example, it's material, it's content, it's great, but it's never this.
Yeah.
It's never need a need. It's never you.
Think about what you can now do with it though. So we have this conversation. I take the transcript, which AI will write for me.
Yes.
I put that into ChatGPT, say summarize this into takeaways, and then I can have it write the social post, like create a content calendar for how I'm going to promote it, write the email for this, the blurb for this for this.
Absolutely.
Organize what can you suggest 10 content downloads I can add to it. Okay, now create that content download. And it's all based on our specific transcript. That a normal process could be 25 hours of work. With AI, I could have that done in an hour.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's like that's where it's a huge time saving. So like the people who do create, like it can take you from here to here. But if you're already not creating content, you're just going to continue to put out shitty content. It's just quicker.
So get this. In February, I was at a conference in Idaho, and the guy who started ChatGPT, he zoomed in. And he basically said, stuff that they intended to release 3 years from now is coming out in September because it's moving so fast.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And he likened it to the moment the human being discovered fire is the same now with ChatGPT. Forget about the internet and what the internet did. He said that is like baby compared to what ChatGPT is.
This is the first, like I've been in the industry 10 years, you guys have been around a while too. Like how many times do you hear this game-changing technology is coming out, right? Like every year there's one to three new things that, and like this is the first one since maybe Facebook lead ads, because that can get like $1 a lead still. Like one of the first ones I'd be like, that can actually change the game. Yeah. And I'm looking at like, how is this going to change my business completely? Like it's already saving me like 10 hours a week.
Oh yeah.
So now I like the way you're looking at it, because you're looking at it as it's saving you time, not that it's going to put me out of business. You're adding that as an extra tool in your belt.
Yeah. Like it's possible we'll lose a few clients who are like, okay, I can write my ads now and do that. But like, what I've even learned with my team is like I now do weekly like training sessions sometimes with my team on like here's how to better use ChatGPT. Like now it's getting to the point like my prompts in there can be a full page.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what gets the good stuff.
I think that's a new opportunity for especially people like yourself. People will go in there, and this is how you get your clients. I know it is from this example. They'll go in there and play around with it, and then get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right. And your favorite client,
strategy.
your favorite client, I'm sure, and I know it because we kind of are all in the same business in a sense, is that individual or that client or that agent that gets overwhelmed. Well, we have that solution for them, right?
Well, it's literally like I work on this with some agents who are willing to put in the content work, and it's how I get clients is you just show them everything, and most of the time they realize, okay, that's way too much for me to figure out. Because a lot of people think it's easy, then they start getting into the weeds, and you're like, okay, there's so much here.
Yes.
But like in the hands of an expert who knows marketing, like for example, like I know who, like have you guys heard of a guy named Eugene Schwartz? No.
I'll say no.
He's like a copywriter from the 1930s, but he was like the godfather of direct response copywriting.
Okay.
So he's not on Instagram.
No, not yet.
Okay.
He is.
Not yet.
But like he has a book on direct response marketing called Breakthrough Advertising. To get a copy, it's like $200.
Really?
Yeah, like it's insane. But it's now it's written in the 1930s, so I think a guy in the 1930s is going to write like not all of it. He would be canceled very quickly today. But if you get past that part, very interesting stuff there. But you can just go on and be like, write this in the style of Eugene Schwartz. If you don't know who that is, you don't know to ask for.
Yeah,
right? Like an expert can get way more out of it than someone who's not. So you can go in and be like, do this as a real estate agent. But if you can be like, hey, I need to know about this, 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 and this from this perspective while considering this, it can now all of a sudden do way more.
And that is what we discussed earlier, because in December, Gary and I are on the phone back and forth, and we're like, we have to learn this very quickly.
Yeah.
Because the quality of our, what it spits out is based on the quality of our answers, of our questions, sorry.
Yeah. Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. We start asking better questions, it's going to produce better results.
Yeah.
So, a challenge that we had for each other, find 5 to 7 different ways of asking the same question.
Yeah.
And as you start putting that out, you become better at asking questions.
Pro tip, have it ask itself the questions
I love
and then
that.
feed that back in. So you
Yeah.
can actually have it write the prompts.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, act as the best prompt writer in the world. I need to get some prompts to talk about this topic. Suggest the best prompts for writing it.
Yeah, that
and
was-
it will write
that
the
was
prompts
impressive.
for you.
Sorry, that was loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, and I love that, and that's something that I've learned over the last, we'll call it 3-4 weeks, is
I can't remember the timeline anymore. It's
I
all
know,
so
right?
quick.
Yeah.
have it ask you questions, interview you in a style, so you get out, you formulate.
So an
exactly
interesting
what
one. I
you-
have a guy who it's a company I use to hire VAs, and he used to own or be part owner or be heavily involved in a company called Coaching.com, which is like one of the top
Yeah.
coaching companies.
Yeah.
And he was chatting to me. He's like, one thing I always thought when ChatGPT first came out, which I'm talking like it's been around for a while, hasn't, is like that coaches would still be safe. He's like, I put in the coaching framework and then told it to ask me one question at a time based on this, and it coached me just as good as a lot of coaches already do.
So get this.
And it's pretty wild.
Tony Robbins, and you mentioned this, so it's not top secret. He is going to be utilizing this, so this will be his coaching going forward, and it's going to be personalized to you,
Yeah.
Andrew, or me. And you have Tony Robbins in your pocket coaching.
That's
every day.
the wild
This is where it's going.
This is what I was reading is like it's the personalized style of this type of thing where you train it only on the data you want.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can go in and say, hey, here's my knowledge base from Just Sell Homes. Only using that information, be a chatbot on my website, train this team member, write ads on this, but it's only on your internal docs instead of being like, because that was one thing this one AI guy I was reading about talking about. He's like, yes, GPT-4 is trained on like 10 times the amount of content, but how much of the content is terrible?
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, it's trained on more, but it's also more crap. But if you took like only the best content in the world that you knew was good and trained it just on that, on that specific topic, that's going to come out. So they're saying like, it's like not as much in North America, and it's probably still will be here, but like in countries where you don't have a lot of access to medical professionals, what if it's trained only on the best medical knowledge, and someone could come in on their phone and be like, put in those basic answers and be like, do I need to make the 3-day trek to go see a doctor?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's
Well,
like,
here's
and
what
it
I
works
love-
offline.
Here's what I love about that, and we all know Mark Rober, the NASA scientist that has this really awesome YouTube channel and does some really neat things. His latest video, or the one that came out in March, we'll call it, is about this company in Africa somewhere. I forget the exact location, but they've trained and they programmed drones to drop off blood in all these local little clinics. So what's AI? How is AI involved in that? Well, AI tells the drone where to go, and it drops a balloon of blood.
Yeah. And
Like,
now it
right?
probably even do prescriptions of like,
Well, that's what's
prescribed
happening,
thing.
right?
Like,
And we're like, well, AI is so new. It's actually not that new because we've been living in it for the last number of years.
we just
Yeah,
haven't
we've
seen,
been-
right? Like even the little thing, like which is my favorite iPhone feature of all time. It's when it's like you have something that sends you a code and you have to like just hit the button and it auto enters the code from the text you got. That's AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
AI has
Like,
been around, like Google has been using AI for how many years
yeah,
now?
like the autocomplete as you're typing.
Yeah,
full
all
sentence.
that
It's
is
just
AI. It's now
Chat GPT just
blew up.
made it popular.
And that, it gave the public access to it.
Yeah, but that's where I think a lot of people who aren't in it and seeing it, they're like looking at it as like Web3, NFTs,
Yes.
crypto, like it's just the next hype thing.
Yeah.
To me, this is the first one of those. So like I understand the use case of NFTs and crypto and all that, but I still never was that big into them. I'm like, they were like Bitcoin is an example. No, it's only for speculating right now. Like it could be valuable down the road, 100%,
Potentially.
but nobody's using it to actually buy stuff
No.
outside of like the odd gimmick.
Yeah.
So it's like it's still not that use case. Whereas like this, like already saved me 10 hours a week, like that.
So let's circle the conversation around being the early adopter. We are all early adopters here.
Yep.
We're all entrepreneurs here, and I'd love to kind of get your input on why being an early adopter is so important in times like this.
So I'll be honest, I'm normally not
I just
that
took over
early.
the interview.
No, it's fine. But I'm actually, it's a great question because I'm normally not that much, like people think I'm an early adopter.
Okay.
I'm actually not. I let other people do their little thing and like test it out. And then if I start to see like a spark of, okay, then I'll dive in. But I'd rather other people do that initial check. And that's like, I never got into NFTs. Like I saw the value of like, there were some cool use cases I could connect that we weren't anywhere ready for, and a lot of things like that. Whereas like ChatGPT, I saw like a couple people using it. I saw like one use case on Twitter, and I was like, gonna go try that.
Yes,
Signed
exactly.
up. I got access like 2 days later because it was a wait list.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I got in there and started playing, like the first day on it, I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I started seeing like some of the ways other people used it, and then dive into that. Like, and then I started being like, okay, I know this is going to change everything. Because I had used AI writing before. Like I had I had one called Writer.
Yeah.
It would write ads for me and do it all this, but it didn't have that same quality.
Interesting.
And yeah, but no, I'm not. I probably am like in the grand scheme of like the scale an early adopter, but I don't actually look at myself as one. I'd rather other people spend the time initially, and then because that way then other people get through the pitfalls, and I just come just after that.
Well, I think it's important. I would still classify you as an early adopter because there's others, and we all know them. Yeah, that's really cool, but I have no interest.
Yeah.
That's really cool, but I have no interest. Well, how's your business growing? It's still the same than where it was 8-10 years ago.
Yeah, right. But like, and now where you can see that ChatGPT has staying power is how many older agents who don't adopt anything are already like, oh, that's cool. Or like, I remember when I did the webinar on it, I had one guy who was like literally like, I'm glad I'm almost retiring. That was scary.
Interesting.
Like, not that I would never want to be the first agent sued for this, and I've said this before. And like, how'd you get this clause? I'd be like, ChatGPT wrote it. But like, damn, those
You know it's
going
going
good.
Well, what do we call it? We don't call it ChatGPT. What do
We call him Jarvis.
Jarvis.
Like it's Jarvis.
I love giving it. So I hired this company to hire me a VA because I just needed someone to like help me with my email. Now with like all the companies and all that stuff, I needed someone to manage it. And they're like, well, we might have like 2 or 3 different people at different times jumping in because we have the SOPs and just make sure you're always covered. Well, we find you your permanent person. So like, just create a fake name. And they're like, but not that they've done it on purpose. It was like everyone I think picks like a woman's name as their assistant. I picked Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, you did.
But it ended up being like Bruce W. And everyone's like, for a long time I was getting emails about like Bruce and Bruce W. And every time I was like, Batman's my assistant.
So yeah, ours is Jarvis.
Yeah.
To even think about your question, Gary, and answering it, I think, like Andrew, I'm a selective early adopter.
Yeah, you have to be.
You have to be
there's too
because
much shit
you can die.
Yeah.
You'll be the first one going over the hill and
Yeah.
you get an arrow to the head and you're like, it's not worth it, guys.
Like the only things in the last few years, it's like Canva. I was pretty early on, and that was huge.
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Facebook. Right? I'd say like
Facebook, I was late. I wasn't even going to get Facebook.
I was late on Instagram, but I was early on Facebook for real estate.
Okay.
Yes.
Early on Canva.
TikTok? Are you on TikTok?
I mean, I'm on it. I don't use it.
Okay,
Like, I don't
okay.
post on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one that, like, I know what works on there. I don't have the time or desire to do.
Okay, no, hang on. I have a question.
Sure.
Or a comment, perhaps. We're seeing an interesting trend when we're in the business of recruiting agents. As a sense, you are too, right? For different purposes. A younger generation wants social media followers, and they think that's how they are going to make an income. Where you have, say, people of my age, I'm close. I'm not 50. I am very close. I'm knocking on the door.
He's knocking on the door.
November,
I can see it.
that door's open. Anyway,
Come on in, Gary.
where I understand the value of social media, but that's not going to get me, that's not going to create business for me in a sense where being knee to knee, that's just a tool. Are you seeing the same thing? Like people, well, I'll just go I'll shoot a short or a TikTok video in front of a listing for a prominent realtor and they'll pay me to do that because I have 1 million followers or something like that.
I mean, I haven't seen it in the terms of like people going to get a big following and trying to sell it to realtors because they are looking at, I want to sell it to Coke. I want to sell it to Amazon. Like, they're not looking at realtors as someone to pay their influencer bill.
I'll tell you, that's my experience. I'm seeing that right now.
Yeah, and I think what I do specifically, and now it does help that with like how long I've been in the industry,
absolutely,
and people trust me, is I look for the contrarian position a lot of the time because that helps get promotion. But I only do that if I actually believe it. But I will say, like, your follower, like those people who say, like, I will go hard at them on like why that's bullshit.
Good.
Right? Like, I'll give you a great, like, I know a woman who does like $500,000 a year and she has 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
But they're 1,000 of the right followers. Right? Like, that's all you need. If you want to make $1 million a year in real estate, how many deals is that realistically?
Yeah, 25,000 a deal. So there you go.
Yeah. Do your math.
So you don't need 50,000 followers to get there.
It's 40. By
you
the way.
need you need 1,000 locally.
Yes.
So if you have 1,000 followers that are actually engaged, actually like talking to you and having conversations, to take 40 out of that,
and you have 1,000 people to give you 40.
Like you should, like, I think it was Richard Robbins, the coach. I've heard this from the first time. Is like, for every 100 people in your database, there's 20 deals a year to be had if you work it the right way. Between the 100 that are there and the referrals from them.
Yeah.
Now, yes, your Instagram following is not your database. But if you say took that as a 25% of that number and said for every 100 people you should get 5, that's not crazy.
That's the soundbite which you are going to cut up and put everywhere. Your
Jen, when you're doing this,
is not your database, and that's what people I think right now are getting confused with.
I need to, maybe I'll put the stat up here, all fancy. But
so now let me
that's
ask
a
you
rented audience.
Let me ask you this as a contrarian idea. How many newer agents, new millenniums in the business, early 20s, are actually building a database, and their Instagram and their TikTok
very few
is their actual database? So
most aren't turning it into a database.
Sorry?
Most aren't turning it into a database.
So you're saying most aren't turned into a database where you're communicating with them systematically, regularly, email drips and so on.
Yeah, and this is actually like one of the reasons I developed the Wheelhouse Marketing Framework, where it's like our wheel of how we help people market. It's like number 2 is called conversations, creating conversations. Most of that's done on social. And then everyone skips from there to the one after, or it's like there, then it's join and then convert. Everyone tries to jump from I have conversations with people on social to convert them to clients, but they're missing that one where I get them to join my database. Even if most of your conversations still happen here, because how many agents do you guys know? You have been in business a while and you know a lot of people too, that have just been for seemingly no reason kicked off a platform. No, even if it's only a week or 2. How, like, I know agents who, like, basically their entire model would collapse if they lost Instagram for a month.
Well, and that's where my mind went, is who owns those followers? It's not that top TikToker or Instagram profile. Who owns that database? It's not you. It's not the agent. That's why, to your point,
rented audience. Then you got to move them to an owned audience. And then you move them to clients. But you have to think about it as like, this is my top of the funnel followers. I need to convert that followers to my database and start collecting data on them, collecting their contact.
So you still think that is relevant?
Yes.
Because if I own a database, which we all do, right, of email addresses and followers and when I mean followers, people that will click on. There you go.
We have to hit that button again.
Yeah, one more. This is good. This is where it's getting deep.
We're gonna keep going.
Or just
My team's remote.
Jarvis, by remote. Do we have a remote?
Buy another camera.
I do actually have one somewhere. Oh no, I might go back to the camcorder because I really did love it.
So as I was saying, if I'm a TikToker and I got 1 million followers, and if we just discussed here moments ago, TikTok perhaps being banned in we'll call it North America, I've lost that attention. I've lost those people. I've lost those viewers.
What was that program that was there before that they got rid of it before
Vine.
TikTok? Vine.
Fine.
Oh, so yes.
So right?
Yeah, it's possible.
But to your point, and now if I have those people in an email database and I'm constantly sending them out
Yeah.
relevant and in value, they're opening that and they're seeing. I own that.
Yeah.
No one can take that away from me.
So
That's the new sales funnel. Like, it's that next step that you have to get them to. Because, like, think about, like, who was the biggest MySpace guy? I mean, besides Tom. He's done all right. But, like, what are they doing now?
So,
Right? Like-
how does a influencer, someone, a millennial, young person who has heavy followings on a social media, convert this now into an actual business where they
Yeah.
own a business and an actual database? What would
So,
be your
I
recommendation?
mean, it depends on the type of influencer you are, of course, right? So, like, if you are someone who just, like, goes out and tries food, well, the easiest place is to be like, hey, I just created a list of, like, the top 10 things of, like, let me email that to you. And then even that could be a blog post. So you might be like, hey, I actually just made a deal with this restaurant that I just tried. I really liked it. They're willing to give, you know, a free whatever, or this discount to anyone who goes. Put your email below, and I'll email you the coupon to get it.
Excellent.
Right?
I
So
like
it's like
that.
now you have a reason to get their email address. Or like with agents, what I recommend is like, you got a listing out, think of Instagram stories. You have the question box. Why are you just not using it to ask a question? But like, do you want me to email you the data sheet? Put your email in the question box. And now people are putting their emails in, and then you just take those out, you email them the data sheet.
And that they
Right?
go into your database
Yeah.
now.
And they create what's called a content upgrade or a lead magnet, however you
Yeah.
want to call it. It's like, we do one with clients called a guide on how to get your home ready for sale. It's 3 pages. It's a checklist. You check it off as you can print it out, check it off as you go through the house, and your home's ready for sale at the end of it.
Well, that you
That's
nailed
how you
it.
offer it.
Yeah, I love it, and you nailed it in the fact that it's a lead magnet, which is, you know, think of that in visual terms. How are you getting people to come to you?
Yeah.
We got to give them a value. You
And
got to give them a
people
reason to say, yeah, I want
overthink
that.
what that is. Like, all you have to do is enough value that you've tipped the pain of, I don't want to give a salesperson my email, right? Like, that's not as much as people think. Because, and I'll even put it in a lot of my copy, being like, and if you don't like anything after that, just hit the unsubscribe button.
Of course.
Like, it's right there. Please hit it.
Yeah,
Well,
please hit it.
I think over the last, during COVID, and the way the market has been, it was a speed-based market. I put a home on the market, it sells. 5 minutes, I have 5 offers, and it's $50,000 over asking. Now we're starting to go back to a skill-based market where you have to know your shit, and you have to know marketing. You have to know how to talk on the phone with the agent on the other side instead of texting.
Well, it's like how many people over the last few years came to our agency and were like, and talking about marketing, it's like, all right, well, let's market your listing. They're like, I don't need to market a listing. I'd be like, it sells on its own. Like, that's not why you market the listing now. It's to build your database and get more clients.
Yeah.
Who are now coming to us now being like, hey, I need to build my database and get more clients.
Well, how many realtors have we heard over the last 2 years where it was a market like that, and they're like, man, I'm just missing. I feel bad because I'm missing this opportunity to build my database because the market was moving so fast.
Yeah.
There's still ways to build your database in a fast-moving market and a slow-moving market, and that's where obviously just sell homes comes in.
An
but
email. I just need an email. It's not even that much to ask.
I remember one of the projects I was working on, and this is great for all the realtors out there that work with custom home builders or anyone that does renovations or anything. Use it. Expand on this. One of the neatest things that we did for our open houses, we always did an open house launch and the whole big deal, made a party out of it. We gave them a survey that they had to answer as they walked through their home. Did you like the renovation? How did you like the bathroom? The this, the that, the paint color, that. And people took time to fill this out. What was I after?
Information.
I wanted their information.
Their email.
I wanted their email.
So
do
here
you
is
know,
how
like-
I did it. I did it a different way.
Okay.
Then I'll give you mine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because my way was you walk through the home and we have 3 spots in the home. Scan here for the top 10 tips of when buying a home, the top 10
Excellent.
questions to ask. Scan here and we'll email that to you. Or when selling a home, here is how we marketed some marketing plan. And we had 3 throughout the house. All they had to do was scan. And we get their information. But we're doing basically the same thing. Everyone that walked into the home, how do we capture them?
I think you're both overthinking it,
Really?
and you need to simplify it. Why are they in the house?
To look at the house.
Because they care about that house. So sign up and I'll send you updates about what happens with the sale of this house.
There you go.
Like, if we get an offer, I'll email you. When it sells, I'll send you the sold price. When that's done, send them similar houses. But that's it. Like, you walk through, you want to stay up to date on what's going on with the sale of this house, put your email here. I'll send you the sold price and any other updates as they happen.
Yeah.
Done.
And I think people today
Interesting.
Don't overthink it.
Look how simple you went. Because the reason I went to that was when you have an open house, it's always John Doe with 123@yahoo.com.
Yeah.
Right? And that was the sign in. But now when I'm offering different things, now I know I'm getting the right email address.
Yeah.
So you're combating that by just saying, I'll just give you all the info on this.
Yeah. You want, like, everyone, even the neighbors coming through, want to know what it sells for.
Yes.
Great, you're a neighbor.
When it
I
says
want your neighbor's contact info. Put your email here.
Yeah. And to call it what it is from an open house perspective, that's who typically walks through the open houses, is your neighbors, is the neighbors.
And then you get their email and you can follow up with them. And then next time you have a buyer who wants a neighborhood, you send an email to that list being like, hey, I got someone looking for a home in this neighborhood. Have you heard of any neighbors thinking of selling?
Yeah.
Great. Now you can follow, and then you get another listing coming up. Hey, another listing coming up. Would you like updates on that one? It's super simple. Like, it's actually how I've started getting some of my clients to switch doing forced registration. Instead of doing forced registration to get info that's already out there, say I will be the first to send you the information when it's available. And you can start that in coming soon. You can be like, I have the photographer in right now. When the photos are ready, I'll send them to you.
Yeah.
When we go live, I'll send that to you. When we get offers, I'll send that. When there's an open house, I'll send that. And you just say, I'll basically keep you up to date on what's happening on this specific listing. And then at the end, you make the pitch to come on for either like getting the regular emails with homes, or you can help them specifically, but it's just that constant, I'll keep you up to date with what you really care about, which everyone, it's not an agent, or how to maintain their home, it's I want my next house. Like, even sellers, that's all they care about, the next house.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. A lot of agents are starting to get concerned with there are changes happening in the market, AI and all of that. In your view, how long do you see the agent role being still relevant and it not being taken over by an Amazon?
I don't see it going away. I mean, my compensation could definitely change. Like, look what's happened in the States with the class action. Like, how agents are compensated might change, but I don't see any time that soon, realistically, where an agent's gone. How, like, income level, the amount of agents could change. That's all up for grabs. But I honestly don't see a scenario soon, and soon I mean like 5 years, or even 10 arguably, where agents would not be around anymore. Like, how many companies have we seen try to get into real estate?
Yeah.
Right? Like, there was even rumors years ago of Amazon doing it, because they like created a domain like amazon.com/real estate or something. And everyone started worrying like, oh, are they going to get into it? But you still need someone to go into the house. Like, look at all like the open doors, right? They all failed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember my broker told me this when I first started in the industry, because I was like, I made a comment about a company that was new. He's like, man, the market's hot. You're going to see a million companies like this, and when the market goes down, they'll go away. When it comes back up, we'll get another 10. And what's happened this time? A lot of those companies already have started going under and doing massive layoffs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's easy to sell a home when they
When the
sell.
market is hot.
When the market's hot, it's super easy. But when it sits on the market for 6 months and your client's pissed about their carrying costs and they have to move and they're stressed, like, you got to use ChatGPT about how to talk to them.
You need to send.
What do I
Jarvis in.
say?
Yeah.
What do I write in this text?
Can you physically show up? Yeah.
I mean, I even saw it today on Twitter. It's like a company that's working on an AI-based robot for your house that can do a lot of, like, right now all it can basically do is like pack a box and move the box, but like, it's not that crazy to go there to, like, right now I saw there a couple of years ago, there was a company that is creating a burger flipping robot for like McDonald's, where all it does is sit there and perfectly cooks every burger the same.
Well, now we're getting into the Jetsons, right?
Yeah, yes, it's
But
coming.
the future, is that 10 years away, 5 years away, of like we could all have our own robot in our house?
Yeah.
Well, that's what
Like-
Elon is going for.
Well,
And sure, that could go and
think
open the
about it.
door to a listing.
We already have our own.
We already do. We got the iRobot or whatever they call
Mhm,
it
that
to
cleans
vacuum
out,
and everything
yes.
else. Man, I need one of those.
When you get to the
Who do
point
I-
where those types of robots that can go and open a door and walk someone through and answer their questions and respond to
your
their
dog.
emotions and do that, there's bigger issues than does a realtor exist or not. Like, the societal change that happens if a real estate agent's not needed anymore because the technology is there, it means so many other jobs are also not needed.
Yeah, and I think we're naive to think about, well, that can't happen because people still like the human touch and factor and everything else. But we're already learning that AI can kind of, not to say it has feelings, because there's no way that I don't think it can, but it can certainly prompt and ask questions. But here's human nature is still touch, is still smell, and people crave that.
I think the biggest risk over the next little while is buyer commissions no longer paid by the seller. Like that's the biggest shift that could happen in the near-ish future. That not like, because I know so many agents who prefer working with buyers so they don't have to negotiate their commission, right? Like it's easy, relatively. I guess it takes your time, but I don't have to negotiate with anyone. I know I'm getting this. It's simple. But if all of a sudden you have to negotiate with your buyer and they have to come up with the cash to pay you,
but they're also paying the fees.
But if that's not allowed to be done through a mortgage.
Okay.
Right? Like, what if hypothetically your buyer compensation couldn't be rolled into a mortgage pay, like your
I still want to do that,
and you had to pay them up front? How much would buyer fees go down for a buyer agent? Right? Like that's possible.
Yeah.
Right? If that change happens, I think that has a much bigger shift than or is a much more potential than agents going away.
Yeah, and we see it though from an industry ebb and flow.
Yeah.
In a hot market, compensation goes down ever so slightly. In a slower market, which we've all experienced over time, compensation goes up.
You start back charging 6%.
Because
and if a seller's worried about not having enough money to pay you, they're a lot more worried about that 5% or 6% or 4%, whatever it is you're charging.
Yeah.
Because there's no standard.
Yeah.
Oh yes, you need to.
I'm not licensed anymore. But back when I was licensed, I had to make a point of saying that.
Well done. Well done.
So I can say the standard 5%. They can't.
No, we can't.
It really boils down to what's best for that specific situation every time, and doing a little bit of research and asking the right questions, right?
Yeah.
Is really what it boils down to. And from a value proposition as agents and as somebody that provides services to realtors, we'll call it like this, how incredible is that value proposition? That's what everyone's compensated on.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the all thing, right? Cream just rises to the top. The good ones will keep going, and
Because we have 70,000 agents on the Toronto Real Estate Board.
I think 90,000 in Ontario.
Yeah. Which, even in the last couple of months, so we're filming this last day of March in 2023. We're already seeing people, agents, and I think this is incredibly smart on their behalf because they're not relying we have so many agents and the transactions are down, let's call it what it is. They are not waiting till the last minute. They're going back to perhaps their full-time job or their trade. And you know what? You might say, well, they're a failure. No, they're not a failure. They're taking care of themselves and their family. That's number one thing.
I work in Mastermind.
Yep, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Right?
I lost the listing. It was great. I'm not bitter about it.
No, your number one role as
A provider.
whether it doesn't matter where you are in life or where you are in the circle of life, is to provide for yourself and your family. Take care of that first, right?
Yeah. And that's why because we see this cycle, and this cycle is needed for the growth of the industry, the evolution of the industry, and to raise the level of professionalism in the industry.
Yeah.
So I see this as, we're in the season of winter, economical winter, we can say, or not, even though we're in seasonal winter as well.
Yeah.
Back
to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, winter is here. It's not coming, it's here. But with economical winter, there's a lot of, pessimism in the news. Yeah. There's hardly any optimism. And I think we will see that over the next, 3 to 5 years, if not more. Yeah. There's a war, there's so much happening. Inflation, high interest rates. However, it's during these times where I truly believe the greatest opportunities are created.
Yeah.
And we as entrepreneurs, as professionals, we just need to look for those opportunities.
Yeah. Like buy a newspaper or something.
Why would you do that during COVID?
Read Rem magazine. How's that sound?
That's a plug.
Shameless plug right there.
It's not my first episode. Always look for that opportunity to shamelessly plug in an organic way.
Yeah. I'll say it for him. Read it.
Yeah, I was happy when I was featured in REM. I don't know.
You were?
Yeah. I don't think you were the owner then.
And I'll tell you what. When it's coming, and when it does, it'll be awesome when I'm featured in REM.
There you go. Yeah, actually, yeah. Like what is it? How does one get featured in REM?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
That's by paying me.
There you go.
So there's two ways, if we're about the official answer, because some people might want it.
There you go.
You can approach our editor, Jordana, who's lovely and amazing and awesome, and you can pitch her a story. If she says yes, you get featured.
Okay.
Or you can pay me for an advertorial. It will be marked as sponsored. I still have to approve the content, but you can pay. But again, like it's always marked, because we get so many people like, can I pay, but I don't want it marked sponsored? I was like, no. Like it has to be marked sponsored.
So now let me ask this: would you pay someone to be in REM?
I mean, we pay
Like an
writers.
appearance fee. Like an appearance fee.
I mean, they'd have to
Gary's
be.
smiling because he knows where I'm going.
Yeah.
They'd have to be pretty amazing. Like, so there's two. Like, we pay writers, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
Now, like if Gary V came to me and was like, "Hey, you can feature me for X amount of money," and it was within my budget, I know the traffic he would drive to
Okay.
Of course.
site. Sure, of course.
Okay.
It depends on the like. I'm never against any opportunity, but it's one of those things where like, what's the highest? Like, say hypothetically, someone's like 10 grand. I'm gonna look at where else can I spend the 10 grand. Like, I've had people come to me being like, "Hey, for this much money, this is for JSH. Like, I'll do this for you guys. It'll be $5K a month." And I saw the value. He was worth it. And I was thinking about it, but then we were like, well, if I put that $5K into like more promotion for the business, I would actually drive more than what he's doing. So I'm gonna put it over here.
So would you pay an influencer to?
Again, it depends. Like, because it has to be an influencer to realtors, right? Because I don't care about the everyday consumer coming to my site.
Yeah.
Like, I actively do things to dissuade them. Because essentially what REM sells is that we have an audience of the industry. I'm not one of those like magazines that also has consumer-facing content.
Okay.
Right. So, would it be a realtor influencer? Absolutely. And we've even looked at things of doing like, is there opportunity for mutual growth, where it's like I'll promote you to yours, and we've done like exchanges. I've already done that.
Yeah.
And then we've had people pitch it to us, and their entire audience was consumers. So I was like, no. Like, one guy was like, I have an audience of 50,000. Why don't we do an exchange? I'm like, yeah, but it's all consumers.
Yeah.
Like, that's not of value to us. I mean, I'm happy to feature you of how you got that and do something that way, but I don't care about your audience of consumers reading REM, because that's not of value to my clients, the advertisers who want to reach realtors.
Well, and you kind of nailed it there. It's not a value to us. And when you mean us, and the same with Colin and I, we mean the people that consume our content.
Yeah.
Right? We in a sense, you, Colin, myself, and others, we're the gatekeeper of that. What not to say what we want you to know you're going to know, but we're often, and I know you are, presented or doors knocked on, "Hey, I have this, or I have this, and I want to promote it, and I want to sell it through you." Like, hang on a second, let's just pump the brakes
That's
here,
not
because
who we are.
Like, one big change I've already made with REM. So when I first started, I had pricing for an advertorial. So I'll be open about it. It's $1,000 to get an advertorial in my site, and that can be up to 1,000 words. For $1,000, you have to write it and provide the image. I've now flipped that and said, for $1,000, the base, I'm writing it because too many ones we got didn't have value, just a straight ad. I still want advertorials to be of value. So now I'm actually going to flip it and say, if you want to write it, you have to pay me more, and I still have to approve it. But at the base, we'll write it like the topic you want, but in a way that still provides value.
Yeah.
And that's one of the switches like I'm just kind of bringing in now, because I still think there's better value that way, even for the advertisers. Like, even if they don't necessarily agree with me, it's still my company, and I think it works better this way. So like, that's one of the ways I'm looking. Like, I think it'll be a more value. I'd rather it go that route.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all business owners, we're all realtors, and we should know. We should be educated enough in our business to know when we're reading fluff or actual value that's going to add
fluff.
Yeah, that's going to add something to my business that I can take. It doesn't have to be tangible, but it has to be something that I can add to my business, and that's what I think. I think that you not just sell homes, but that's what REM does and has always done, right? In a sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like they've always do provide value. Like, yes, not all the content from before did I want to keep. Like, I'm not going to mention any specific articles or columns that were regular that we killed because I'm not going to put someone down. But
that's fine.
Like, there was ones we stopped because I'm like, I don't see the value in that continuing. If they want to take a different angle and we could find a way to make it work, absolutely. But in their current form that was being published, like, I'd rather publish one less article. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I've had some people submit clearly ChatGPT solely written articles. I just wouldn't publish it.
Yeah.
Because anyone can write that. Like, if you took ChatGPT and then added your own anecdotes and stats and actual interesting information, that I'm willing to do. Because, like, we use ChatGPT to, like, make ourselves more efficient at REM, but it's not writing an article for us.
Yeah.
And I don't want that content.
Well, let's provide some clarity to this. This interview, I can assure you, is 100% Stella approved and Guinness approved and everything else, and not ChatGPT.
Did you guys? I don't know. Do you guys get Schwarzenegger's daily newsletter by chance?
No.
Oh my gosh, that exists?
Yes, it's the
Arnold
Schwarzenegger has this positive daily email that helps you with your fitness. And today he announced he's launching a podcast.
No way.
And the first episode, when you go to it on Spotify, it's 2 minutes and 17 seconds of Arnold talking. And he's like, you might wonder how I have the time to do this.
Interesting.
Because he trained an AI on his voice, and it's not him.
Whoa.
He is openly admitting that the podcast that sounds like him is not
run
him.
by an AI.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's his ideas, but it's not him.
So look at where all of this is going, because we know that it can manipulate, because we saw it manipulated the Pope's photo of him, with a rapper jacket on and so on.
Kind of like this one, just a little puffy.
A little bit puffier. I didn't want to bring the attention to it. And it was white.
Not so black and white.
Yeah, there you have it.
So you can't even believe what you see now or hear.
Oh, they're like, on the political side of things, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
But for us, it's great. In like a business world. But no, it's going to be kind of crazy.
It's exciting. It's exciting because I remember when I first found out about it. And that was in November I found out about it. Told my family about it at dinner one night. And I said, all right, let's watch this on YouTube. And it was a 15 minutes, just an overview. And we started talking about it. And my kids, and honestly, I don't know where they came from. I said, guys, you can use this in your schoolwork and so on. And my son and daughter looked at me and but that wouldn't be authentically us.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's going to be the value going forward.
that's
Right?
it.
So like that to me, that's the biggest compliment when I meet people in person. And they're like, I watch your show all the time. You're the same guy.
You're the same guy.
Right? Like it's that, because we all know someone who's gone on their show and something like that. And you're like, the second the camera turns off, their energy changes.
Yes.
They're a different person. That's like, it's annoying.
So my son, who is in animation and illustration, I said, how do you feel, how do you think this will affect your business? He said, this has just made me more valuable. I said, how so? He said, because everyone can punch in stuff on AI and it'll produce something similar. However, I'm going to take a week at it, and then I'm going to bring my own experience into it. It's going to be slightly different, and I can charge more for it.
But the prompts so if he used it though, it would even take him to another level.
That's
like
it.
Yeah.
have it do that initial grunt work
Yes.
as the first draft.
Yes.
And then he touches it up
Mhm.
with his expertise. I think that's like what everyone can do is like
Mhm.
does the first draft, you punch it up.
Yeah.
And that's where it's valuable.
It's valuable.
He-
Well,
use
here's a quote that one of our friends has told me. Everyone can follow where you've been. No one can follow where you're going. Right?
Except for Wayne Gretzky.
Except for somehow we're Canadian. It comes back to hockey somehow.
That is good, actually.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like no one knows my inner thoughts and how I'm creative or how your son is creative, right? Like that's where we all get to excel.
It is a use case of ChatGPT. I love the way a guy used it. Is he asked for like essentially opinions on a topic. And he's like, great, those are the ones I can throw out so I can take a different opinion than the average person has.
There you go.
Right? Like one of my favorite ones, and I believe it, so it helps, is when everyone talks about video marketing. And my first line when I do a presentation is like, video's fucking overrated. Because you don't, like there's a time and a place. And the example I use that hits everyone and makes them realize I'm right. You've been on Facebook before, you've been scrolling through, you clicked on a news article. And it was a video, not a written one, so you closed it because you didn't want to watch something. That's happened to everybody. There's a time and a place for video. I do a lot of, like we're on video right now talking about how video is overrated. There's a time and a place for video that has a lot of value. But like if you're sending an email to your client about a showing being confirmed, that doesn't have to be a video of you being like, hey John, this is a bomb video of me saying our showing's confirmed tomorrow at 1, see you there. That's a text message that says showing's confirmed, see you at 1. Right, like time and a place for everything. Like that's like I don't like getting bombed sometimes when it's just like it could have been an email. It's like that things like that email could have or that meeting could have been an email.
That meeting
that
could have
video
been
could have
an
been a text
email
message.
or a text,
and that's where it's important to understand your audience, your client.
Yeah, know when it should be there.
Exactly.
So like video's great, but like I got in the industry 10 years ago or just over now, and I was told if you're not doing video in the next 5 years, you're gonna be out of the business. It's bullshit. I know agents, like, I bet Mary Carcone's not doing video.
No, she's not.
She's killing it.
Yes,
like,
yes, she is.
She's doing great. Like, yes, video can do great for some people. But you know what? There's people who are amazing writers, and they will do better written content. REM right now is 100% written content. And it's still, like, we're getting 60,000 agents a month on our website. Like, that's almost half the
That's
industry.
me just going back and back and back.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
We also have
Unique.
unique people.
He knows his terms.
I know what I'm doing. Page views is even higher. But that's it, right? Like, some people prefer written, some people prefer video. And if you suck on camera and you don't want to work on it, you can still be very successful without ever publishing a single video.
Well, and here's how I've turned. I'm heavy video, as we all know, and I've turned my. We're going long, eh?
Oh yeah.
Want to wrap this up in a minute?
My longest one is 3 hours.
No, this won't be 3
No,
hours.
we only have room.
We only have
and I have to pick up my kids.
So I got to use the washroom like now.
So we will finish that. I don't know. Maybe we're not wrapping.
Okay.
No, I got it.
Okay,
I got
good.
Yeah, you good?
I got it. So
Go.
So I'm video heavy, as everyone knows. But here's what I've added is tremendous amount of description or text to my YouTube descriptions, and I now know that people need to consume content differently, right? And that's important. You got to know your audience, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's just the video. I think we need to go back to adding value. The moment we start giving value to our consumers or listeners, this is when your viewership goes up, you go up. This is when you go viral, when you start adding more value. And a lot of the times we just want to do a dance or a clown show and we think that's enough.
Yeah, you can't just do it for the sake of doing it. Like over Pint, I never even had it as a podcast. It was purely a Facebook show. And I had so many people ask for a podcast version because they wanted to listen to it while they drive. Because my episodes are long, like I get it. But like this one, what are we at now? Like an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Like I'll probably edit it down to closer to an hour-ish. But yeah, like it's long. People want to be able to not sit there at the computer screen and watch it the whole time. But then what we'll probably also try to do is create like a 500-word blog post with some key takeaways and stuff like that. Absolutely. But that's how people want to consume it. So we ended up like 6 months into the show adding a podcast reel. I just ripped the audio up, throw it there.
Interesting.
Which doesn't always work because sometimes we use visuals. And that doesn't quite work. But I have to go pick up my kids soon. We've been drinking a while. But
responsibly, so you still pick up your kids.
You know, all that fun stuff.
But this is something I admire about you. And like your family's first and foremost. It doesn't matter what is happening. It works around, I'm here with my kids or I'm doing this with my family. It's before or after.
No.
And I truly respect that about you. So a lot of people, they sacrifice family so that I can make that extra deal or something. the truth is you can still have that deal. The moment you set your expectation and your boundaries, people will be like, okay, yeah, I can work around
People
that.
are like, when you use, say, specifically your kids, 'cause some people are so scared to say it's a personal thing.
Yeah. No.
I found when I go that way and say, like, no, it's like my kids sound like I mean, we joked about it the last time I was on your podcast.
Yeah.
It was like, I fucking get up early now. I don't like it, okay? Like, I know you're a big fan of the mornings. You're probably more like me. I have to get up at 4:30 every day. And I work 5 to 7, because 7 to 9:15, I'm getting my kids ready. I have 3 kids with 3 different drop-offs. So that's 7 to 9:15 to get them dressed, fed, and at their different drop-offs. And then 3:15 the pickup start again.
Yeah.
And then I'm done for the day. So, like, I basically have 5 to 7 and 9:15 to 3:15 to work. And that's what I do.
There you
It's
go.
fun. But I'm really hoping the 5 a.m.s can go away, because I want to get away from that. Or I'll just hire people to let me sleep
There you
in.
go.
So if people want to get a hold of you guys, reach out to you, find the podcast, all that fun stuff, how do they do it?
Yeah, so we're all over YouTube, Spotify, Not So Black and White Real Estate Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Gary A. McGowan on most of your socials, all your socials.
Yeah. For me, Keller Williams Realty Center. So just call the office. And you can get in touch with us. We can get in a conversation. On social, it's Sir Colin Campbell, Sir Colin _ Campbell. On most of my socials, that's it. But I just like connecting with really good people. So that's it.
So that information we'll put here, 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 depending on the platform. You'll see it. It's around. Stay tuned for the next episode. As always, I have no idea who the next guest is going to be. I'll figure it out before this airs, maybe. But stay tuned. We'll have another episode at some point. Thanks for coming in.